Hi, hello, and how are you? Come on in and stay a while. It's time to get coached up with another edition of the Coach Scott Field Show. Hey, please invite a friend and share this content with a friend. This show allows you, the viewer, to connect with some of the greatest people around the globe in the sports entertainment industry worldwide. I'm thrilled to be your host, Coach Scott Fields, and this is my friend Chris Allison. Uh, it's going to be an entertaining show, but I think if anything, this is going to build awareness for you, the viewers, of this new exciting professional minor league basketball league that's going to be going, throughout the states. And Chris is going to dive in that. Chris Allison, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thanks, Coach Fields. I appreciate the time. I know we've been talking for a few months now, so I'm glad that we're able to actually make this happen.
Well, you've been a busy man. You've got showcases, you're out hustling, doing sponsorships, and you've got communities that are getting involved. But before we get into all that, let's introduce the viewers. Who is Chris Allison and how did you get involved in sports?
Well, I've loved sports for as long as I can remember. I remember playing basketball and football in the backyard with my dad and my brother, and it's always been something that is very been near and dear to my heart. If I'm being honest, I'm much more a football fan. I'm a diehard Pittsburgh Steelers fan, and I would do anything for the black and gold. But very close to that is a second basketball. And always loved sports. I remember watching it all the way through as a kid, all the way to high school, and now adamantly watching constantly. So sports has always been ingrained into me as a staple of my life, and I enjoy watching it, I enjoy playing it, I enjoy being around it, and how I got into this comes it's an interesting journey. It's always, don't hide away or shy away from open doors. And it kind of just magically happened that way. I think it's more providential intervening, but it is what it is, however you want to call it. My primary focus, my primary function in life is I've taken care of my brother so as long as I can remember. He has a dual diagnosis of autism and bipolar disorder. And after I got back from college, I started taking care of him immediately. I graduated, I did a 4 year in 2 years, and I came back at 20 and just started taking care of him immediately because of the situation that he was in. The way we grew up, we didn't really understand what was going on. Autism wasn't as um, mainstream or understood as it was in the 90s as it is now. And so there was a lot of understanding and catching up that I had to do. And I just saw that, hey, my brother is not going to be in this situation. I'm going to do everything I can to take care of him. And so started taking care of him in home care. He got his own apartment. I was his caregiver, meals, clothes, all that stuff. But in that process of cultivating with him, understood and realized that there were a lot of people that don't have a brother that's willing to do that for them and that need that help. And so we started an agency in that grew and we started taking care of other people. He comes to me one day and he says, hey, I want to work. Okay, let's find a place that teaches you how to work and that does that. He went to one place, a very well-known place in the disabilities world, and he worked there, and it didn't fit him. So we tried another space and went there and they promised him a whole lot of things. Said, hey, you're going to come in. He loves to clean, loves to vacuum. So you're going to come in, you're going to vacuum, you're going to, clean the building, and we're going to be able to pay you 4 hours a day, come in, be able to do this. He was there for 3 months and made $30. And it wasn't for lack of trying. What they were doing was they were trying to recruit a bunch of people to bid for a contract. They didn't get that contract. And so all these people that they signed on didn't actually work anywhere. So from that, I said, okay, I'll figure out how to do this and I'll create jobs. And so we created a training program, a job training program, where we're teaching people how to do mechanics, construction, custodial, media. And my friend at the time came in. He's like, hey, I have a printing degree from Ohio State. We could do t-shirts, teach them how to do t-shirts. And so I said, okay, let's figure that out. And in that process, we started with t-shirts, then we did shorts, then we did all these other things. And I said, okay, well, hey, let's see if we can find local people to be able to sell this to, for us to be able to cultivate the service and build this business line. So what I thought was, okay, I remember playing rec pickup ball at rec centers, as a kid. Let me go to rec centers and figure this out, how to sell jerseys, sell stuff to them. So I got into the business of minor league basketball or rec ball by creating jobs for individuals with disabilities. And so we got into a local rec program. It wasn't going the way we wanted to, so I created my own local pro-am here in Columbus, Ohio. And we started off with 16 teams. The requirement was everybody had to buy our uniforms because it was providing jobs for people with disabilities. And that's just been the staple, the foundation of my whole entire life, is being able to take care of others. And it's cultivated into these doors. So inside of that pro-am that we were doing, that local high-level rec league that we were doing, somebody saw my content we were creating, because we were doing graphics, post-game interviews, something that I'd never seen anywhere else, but trying to bring the field down to the rec level. So they saw it. I got introduced to them. They said, hey, we're getting ready to start a minor league basketball team. I was like, okay, cool. I'd never heard of minor league basketball, if I'm being transparent. I'd only ever heard of college and pro. I was a huge Allen Iverson fan. That was, had the shoes, had the jersey, had all that. And then whenever he left, I became a Dwayne Wade fan. And then whenever he retired, I'm still kind of searching on who that player is, for me there. But I said, minor league basketball is great. There's only so many teams in the NBA. It makes sense to create a minor league system, not knowing the history that is minor league basketball, that I've become very well acquainted with, not only domestically, but on a global scale. So I said, hey, that's a great idea. There should be great opportunities. I went to a league meeting in Indiana, and I went there. I said, this is great. I think this is a great idea. And I was on board with them as part of their media team. And I thought, hey, how do I get involved with the league at a higher level whenever it comes to, again, me trying to find ways to have apparel or jobs for people with disabilities. So I had a conversation with the league owner, the league president, and said, hey, we would love to be able to do the uniforms for the league, so we can make that happen. And he said, well, we can guarantee that if you buy a team. So I bought a team inside of the league, and we got the apparel deal. And so for 4 years after that, we continued to help rebrand, rebuild. I've designed every uniform that they played with. I was immediately and intimately involved with the branding for the league, for teams, for everything. And the whole premise of that was just to be able to provide jobs for people with disabilities. What I did see inside of that as well was I didn't really enjoy the business structure that was that league. And so with building two multi-million-dollar businesses, the healthcare and then obviously the apparel business, it's thought there has to be a better way. And so that's where the birth of the UBL is. I still am doing healthcare, still doing the apparel and building that out. But now with this venture with the UBL and the minor league structure, we essentially are trying to, it's ironic that now I'm trying to restart the minor league structure whenever I didn't even know it existed 5 years ago. But that is where we are. That's what we're trying to do. And obviously we'll get into that more here in a minute.
I find it fascinating, Chris. I can hear your passion. I hear the purpose, but more importantly, I hear the servant heart and leadership that you have, because you have a bigger picture in mind. And the fact that you're working with people with disabilities and know what that need is, know what that structure is, and can fill voids and gaps to provide opportunities, I think is phenomenal. And then how this new league has kind of manifested itself is with the vision of direction that you have. So, I mean, let's talk about the UBL, the United Basketball League. What was it that was in your mind that, like, okay, I've seen your business plan or structure. I feel we can do it better. Where did the rubber meet the road and say, you know what, we're going to start our own and we're going to try to do something to provide something different for the communities?
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, inside of the other league, I own that team. I own four other teams inside of there. Um, we started off, whenever we started off, it was right before COVID. So, February, the end of February, we started, we get right to the middle of March, everything shuts down. And that understanding, because I know how to build business. Business
Yep.
is process, right? If you build a process, the business itself follows that process because you own it and you're controlling it. What I've seen, and this isn't just the league I came from. This is across the board. 99% of all leagues fail, and the reason that they fail is it's contingent upon this central idea. The central idea is one person or one group or one entity owns the league, and they have people buy into the league, and they give guidelines to be able to make that happen. But in reality, the majority of the people that are outside of the big four, the NFL, NBA, MLB, and NHL, most of them have never built a business and understanding the process that it takes. And so I've I saw countless people go through the process of I want to buy a team inside of the league. And I've seen this in arena, I've seen this in minor league baseball. I've talked to hundreds of people in the same conversation where it's we really love the sport, we really love the idea, we really want to be a part of it, we really want to build a business, or we want to build this business, but it's not the league's responsibility to be able to teach you how to run a business. This is a big thing. I've had countless people call me and say, well, they did this, they did that. And I said, it's on you. You invested the money. You're supposed to know how to run the business. The problem that I had was there was no continuity across the board. You would have whoever spent the most money had the best team, which makes sense. I mean, the Cowboys do that, the Lakers do that. I get it. But if you're trying to build a communal system and you put it under the idea and under the guise of this is a community, we're a family, we're an X, we're an Y, you're only as strong as your weakest team. So if your weakest team is hypothetically mortgaging their house to make a payment to their players, or is can't run because they've never run a business before and don't understand the expenses, it kind of mutes the whole point of how the league is supposed to be structured. And so stepping back and looking at all of the infrastructure that is across the rest of the world, looking at other leagues, we draw a lot of inspiration from the USL, the soccer league. I'm not a giant soccer fan, but the infrastructure that the USL has made is incredible. You look at Australia, the NBL Australia, then the NBL one, how they're building that. And now with so many, they just hired on Kenny Smith, they just brought on Carmelo Anthony. It's gaining a lot of traction from the infrastructure side. I'm a big processes guy. I like things to be able to be set in stone and we can step and repeat. And so if I step back and I look at how this is operating and understanding, hey, this is not working because we don't know if we're going to get in, we don't know if we're going to get to the end of the season. I understand growing pains. I understand that things are year to year. But if your business model is contingent upon people that have never run a business, your business is going to fail, especially if you're not giving them the tools. There were plenty of tools in the league I came from. I will say that first and foremost. But it's like handing somebody a miter saw and then saying, "Hey, build a house." Okay, the miter saw is just one piece of it. How do I measure? Where do I build? It's all those pieces that come along with it. And so we step back and I step back. I mean, I started building this and cultivating this 4 years ago. This logo here, I helped design 5 years ago. So it's been something that's been in the works for a while. It's not just, hey, I got pissed because again, so many other leagues derive from that where they go, I'm mad at the league owner. I'm going to go do my own thing. I am not that person. I believe that the people that have these leagues have great intentions to be able to build something. I have a different model in mind for us to be able to build it. It may work, it may not work. I believe it will. Our investors believe it will, but the business model and a system only works as much as it's being worked. And so with us staying true to what we're wanting to build from the beginning and having the mindset of longevity, it allows us to be able to have a plan outside of, well, we'll see what happens. It'll work itself out. It allows us to be able to follow about, or is everything going to go 100%? Absolutely not. But if it went 80% and we fixed it and went 85 and then we went 87 and we are progressing until we get to that 10-year goal line that we do have, I think that we have a good successful there. So again, it's not taking away from what anybody done, because that leads to this. That also allowed me to see what I didn't want to do. It allows me to try things that I do want to do inside of that same conversation. And so I believe the system that we have built is going to have um, a lot of adjusting that's going to happen. We've already adjusted twice in our model getting to it because as much as our investors are excited about this, it is minor league basketball. And once I learned the history of minor league basketball, I understand. I spoke with a representative from the Houston Rockets, and he said, I love the idea, but I think that minor league basketball in the US is a losing proposition. I said, I appreciate your feedback, and we'll see what happens. I said, I hope that I could prove you wrong. Sorry, I forgot to turn off that phone. But I hope that I prove you wrong. Which my intention and my drive is not proving people wrong or proving that I'm right. It's I believe that there's a niche here that can happen because if you look at soccer, you look at hockey, you look at football, if you look at even pickleball now. So sports and entertainment is what is driving, especially, I don't want to get into social and economics or global economics, but if you look at the trend that is happening around the world, it's going to consumption versus creativity. So if it's going to be a consumption type world and we're going towards 15-minute cities and we're going towards everything being localized around a community, then build an asset for the community that has longevity. And so that is what we're changing in the direction that we're going with the league.
I see. I love what I hear. I hear the vision. I hear the drive behind it. I've been involved in my coaching experience with some leagues, and you hit the nail right on the head. This is no disrespect to others who didn't have a business plan or a business model. Uh, the elephant in the room, and not to be a negative Nelly, they didn't know how to manage or run a business. They didn't understand finances and money coming in and the sponsorships and, finding a gym with cost. I mean, there's so many details that go into that. And, it was so hard for some of the players because the players are taking a risk when they don't know if their next paycheck is coming. There's no per diem. They're struggling to find a practice gym. And I mean, all those things go into that. But I kind of hear where you're going to provide tools for the franchise owners that's going to help build up that stronger foundation with supports from the community and having the right people in place to be mentors to help develop the players, develop the coaches, develop the referees, to help teach skills with marketing and all the things within each of those individual franchises. And I think that's a great starting point because you're trying to slow down and build it successfully small before you get too big too quick. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, our infrastructure is the league. It's a single entity infrastructure, just like MLS, where the league owns and operates every single team. Now, there will be buy-in, there will be equity share, there will be profit share, which we'll get to in just a second. But the whole point of that is the continuity across the board. Minor league basketball will not remove that negative connotation until somebody does it right. Just one season. There has not been a league since 1999. And I know what I'm saying whenever I say this, and I understand what I'm saying. There's not been a league since 1999 where every game was played, every player was paid. That is literally our goal for the first year. Every game is played, every player paid for the first year. We will accomplish something that hasn't been done in 25 years if we
Wow.
do that first season. And that was the
That
old.
that's what I don't mean to interrupt you, but that's a mouthful what you just said, because so many of these leagues don't have credibility. They don't have respect from the higher leagues, even though players can showcase their skills and talents. But again, the money and the revenue and the support just hasn't been there with longevity. I mean, go ahead and speak on that.
Yeah, I mean, it just hasn't. And the reason Spain, the country of Spain, has 444 professional teams from high school up. And I understand that their infrastructure is a little different, but they don't have NCAA like we do here. But they have 400. And if you look at the last draft, was it four of the top 10 were from overseas, two of
Yeah,
which were from
mainly
G
a
League
lot of
Ignite?
French, yes, French
Yeah,
players.
yeah.
That
So
club
out of the
system works.
Exactly. And so that we're going back, we're not trying to compete with the NBA or the G League at all. What we want to do is that club system where we're tier 3 and 4 underneath of them because so many guys now NIL is going to change that. The salary ruling is going to change that a little bit, but I still believe that there's a niche. with 500,000 high school boys playing basketball every single year and 400,000 girls playing high school basketball, and then you only have 30 teams and 12 teams for them to go to post college. Well, hey, something's wrong there with the math, right? You have over 300 baseball teams in the US, you have over 300 soccer teams in the US, you have over 100 hockey teams, which is not even the primary sport. Basketball is the most played sport in the world and the second most watched domestically. And we have 30 teams. There's a monopoly from the NBA. Big Three and Ice Cube are fighting that, and they can fight that all they want. But we want to give opportunities to the guys that are coming out of college, don't know what to do because they've gone for 15 years driving every day to be an NBA player. They're number 61 on the list because of nepotism. And so they have to go overseas to a place that they don't want to go to, or they may not get a good contract, or they have to start at the very bottom, work their way up whenever they already have a fan base here. It just doesn't make sense. And so going back to that whole thing, like you said, players are concerned and they're taking a risk. An employee, if we're looking at it, a player on a team is an employee. An employee should not take a risk going to go play for a team. They don't take a risk of, hey, is McDonald's going to pay me? And if we're being transparent, what we're paying, I mean, if you look at the G League, the base salary of the G League is $40,000. Okay. You extrapolate that over 12 months, which is about $3,000. Right? The G League is paying $3,000 a month per player. So if we're starting at $2,000, you could make more playing or working at McDonald's, getting paid at $2,000. And I understand we're starting off between $2,000 and $4,000 based upon experience and skill level, and we're going to grow and mediate between there. And our objective is to keep that growing and keep that pushing, where we're pushing the G League to be able to pay more. That just makes sense. If guys are getting paid $300,000 for an NIL deal at a D2 school, there's no reason that a professional basketball player should be going and getting paid only $3,000. Now, granted, I understand what I'm saying whenever I say that because that's where we're starting at. But at the same time, that is the median income for that job in the United States. And we want to push and we want to build this infrastructure across the board. And so that's where it's so important for us to be able to build with the communities. The communities don't attach to teams in the minor league. Most of them, there are over 400 minor league teams inside of the US for basketball. But if you're not paying your players, you can't call yourself professional. You just can't. It just doesn't make any sense. It's not a pro. It's a rec league. And I've attributed it sometimes
to a glorified rec league.
Yeah, it's adult AAU, right? So, and so this is why with the infrastructure that we're building, we're coming in with major sponsors, we're coming in with major investors, we're working with state governments for us to be able to build assets. And the biggest thing to me is we're not asking the community. What I can't stand is whenever the big four come in and they say, hey, build us an arena, we'll bring a team. Why? That doesn't make any sense. I understand the economics, it may drive money, but if you look at some of the teams that it took them 30 years for them to get any ROI out of it, it just doesn't make sense. We're going to come in and use the assets that are already there, the arenas that are there, the gyms that are there, the assets that are there starting off, so that way we have minimal cost to the community, all upside, and then from there, build an infrastructure where we are bringing assets to the community, not asking the community to pay for the asset. And so our whole model is completely inverted, and we're going to spaces that are not traditional. Like the big four always go to major one, even the big three. They're selling their franchises in these major cities. That's great. But for example, in Indiana, you're Mr. Indiana, you understand the state very well. People in Terre Haute, people in Bloomington, people in Medora aren't driving to Indianapolis on a regular basis for a game. It's just not happening. And so if we bring the game to them, bring the experience to them, they're going to rally around that. Obviously, you've played, you've been in these places. We picked Indiana on purpose because it has 8 of the top 10 largest arenas inside of the US for high school. We picked it on purpose. We picked Texas on purpose for the same reason. It wasn't vindictive or sticking it to somebody, as I've been told that I'm trying to do. No, we picked basketball meccas on purpose to start a basketball league. And so us building these organizations inside of those cities allow us to be able to draw the talent, draw the basketball community, so that way we start a movement that whenever we go into a place like Idaho or North Dakota, that movement is already saying, hey, this is something you want to be a part of for people that are not attributed to that already. So our whole motto is not, hey, I know somebody inside of a city, we're going to make it happen. No, it's, hey, we're going to bring a system to a community that benefits the community on a 365, not just a, hey, we're here for 3 months, we'll see you next year, but a 365 that we are integrated into the community long term.
Wow. See, and I love that because everything you say is making sense, especially from a business model, from an investor standpoint, from a corporate standpoint. And if I'm going to be a coach, honestly, or if I'm going to be a player, I want to go where I know there's going to be some credibility and some substance to behind the league that I'm going to play for, because now when you post those stats from that league, that can help showcase your skills and talents as, a general manager or as a coach or as a referee. Now you've shown that you've had viability and you are an asset, and now you're increasing your portfolio to make you more marketable to be able to compete for higher salaries and other opportunities. And I love the vision and direction that you have with it. Yes, I'm an Indiana guy, born and bred, and I love that fabric. But the fact that you're going into those markets with Texas and Indiana, I think is smart, because you're also getting the right people involved with knowledge, experience, and expertise that you can also draw from, that help make that model that you already have in place even more credible.
Absolutely. And that's a big thing too. You talked about two things in that, which is the credibility and also the people that are around us. We'll start with that. The people, I'm only, I could have great ideas, but the execution, the sounding board, the experience only comes with a group of people that have already been there or already done it. Um, the list of people that we've announced, but the list of people that we haven't announced yet that are actually working with us on a day-to-day basis, is astounding. It's people that have endless resumes inside of basketball. And as I stated, 5 years ago, I didn't even know that minor league existed. These people have been playing in the minor league for longer than I've even known that it is. So they've seen both sides of it. They've been at the pro level, the NBA, and then they've been at the minor league system. And their kids are trying to now go through the same system that they went through, and it's a completely different thing. So having that sounding board, having people that are sitting around a table saying, hey, we probably shouldn't do that, we should do this. I thought I had a brilliant idea. We went into our operations meeting and they're like, yeah, that's not good. I said, okay, well, why? Why is that not good? After 5 minutes of them explaining it, I said, okay, cool, we're not going to do it. Because I'm not arrogant. I'm not thinking that I know everything. I have an idea. I have a mission, I have a vision, and I have the ability to be able to stay focused on that as we drive forward. Everything else that comes in ancillary just adds to that vision, which is why we have that collective of people that understand that. And we have the collective of investors that are fueling that, right? And then the second piece is the credibility. This is why, if you go to our social media pages, the UBL official, you'll see we have ambassadors after ambassador after ambassador. And these ambassadors are either former NBA, WNBA, MLB. We have some other ones that are very influential people that are coming on board. And that is the purpose of, we've sat down and just like we're doing now, explaining the league, we've gone into a little bit more detail with them, but explaining what our long-term vision is for the league. That's why these people have signed on board. We have other people that would said, we would love to, but the problem of minor league basketball history, you have to go at least 2 seasons before we can sign on. I said, okay, cool. Because I understand and know where we're going to go. If we get to 2 seasons, you're going to have people that everybody has their name on the back of their shirt that they're wearing right now. Those are the type of people that are going to come on board. And I get the apprehension. I do, because I've seen, now that I understand the history, there have been league after league after league that has popped up in minor league basketball because it's supposed to be the easiest, the simplest, and it's not. It's business is business. And if you think that just putting 10 guys on a court with fancy logo on it and playing basketball is going to get people to stand, that's not. And we're going to struggle with that the first year because we're competing with a lot of different factors. We're competing with football, which again, I get. We're competing with the election. We're competing with, the weather is supposed to be crazy this year. We're working with us being brand new. There are so many factors that are going to cause us to be able to get here. And our investors know that. They said, it's 3 years. I mean, every business knows that, it's going to take 3 years. Obviously, we hope that we get there faster. But at the end of the day, if everybody plays, everybody gets paid. we've done something that nobody else has done. And that there is going to turn heads. So the ambassadors give the credibility by attaching their name to this process for us to be able to build it out. And as we grow, there's just going to be more that is added. If you look at the history of the NBA and you look at the history of WNBA, there's only 5,500 to 6,000 people that ever played in the league. Everyone thinks that it's more, but it's not. I mean, that's just where it is. And so our objective inside of this is to get on as many ambassadors that understand the principle of what we're doing to grow it. Ricky Davis is the co-founder with me and partner with me as well. And he was very adamant at the beginning that we gave equity to every single NBA and WNBA player that ever played. From his perspective, it's we help build the league, we help build the G League, we help build the Big Three, we help build all these. We don't have any equity, we got a paycheck, but we help build these things that are now worth billions of dollars, and we don't have any equity in it. So we built a fund inside of the league where we're giving equity to anybody that was a former NBA or WNBA player. All of them already own a piece. It's earmarked for them because obviously we had the list. But they just have to claim it. And once they claim it, it's theirs. And as we collectively grow, just like we're asking to do with the communities, we're asking to build with the NBA community to be able to do that. Because again, we're trying to be a complement, not a competition. It's an opportunity for these guys. Hey, I just came out of high school. I just came out of college. I want another year. I don't want to go to Australia. I want to stay here with my family and friends that I knew. I want to be able to play here domestically to get another year under my belt. I didn't make the G League team for me to be able to do that. So if I can stay here domestically, I'm going to make that happen. And so that influence, that credibility allows us to be able to that we bring immediately with the co-founders and with the ambassadors allows us to be able to give legitimacy. And on top of that, we're not just putting an ambassador, oh, hey, we got this person. We're putting Brad Miller in Fort Wayne where he grew up. So people want to come see Brad Miller because they watched him play in that same high school. Al Harrington lives in Dallas, has built businesses in Dallas. He's building in Dallas. We're putting him there. We're adding these people to the spaces that they have the influence so that we were leveraging their history in that space because we want to do the exact same thing with the players that are coming up. If a player is going there, goes to college, great, phenomenal player, can come back and play for his team, help build and influence the next generation of players. That's what we're trying to be able to have a catalyst for to be able to make that happen.
Chris, I love that because if what I hear you saying, there's a piece of pie there that is with the ambassadors, kind of like name, image, and likeness, where there is credibility. These people know those people. They're going to be more comfortable to support them, to see them involved. And again, it's almost like the proverbial torch is being passed because it's like, okay, I came from here, they're coming full circle, and now who is going to be the next generation to come back and do the same thing to give back to their communities? I think is a brilliant move. Full transparency, I got excited about it. I was eager to learn more about it. Because I have so many friends and acquaintances who are already attaching themselves to it and are listening to your business model. And every time I'm getting information from them, they're like, hey, there's a real vision there, and there's a real purpose there, and there's credibility behind this. And again, the curiosity continue to grow because you've listened to the people who have gone through these types of systems, and you're not just making them, a face of a franchise or an ambassador, but you're listening to their input to bring value to what is going to work within this minor league system. And again, I think that's a brilliant move on your part because it's not about ego. Yeah, you know how to build and grow and develop businesses and opportunities for communities, but yet you're listening to people who have been through the entire process from A to Z, and you've taken that input and you've kind of helped mold that into your plan to manifest what is coming to fruition right now with your showcases going on, in these states to provide opportunities for these guys.
Absolutely. And that's our entire infrastructure is, like I said, we're building tier 3 and 4 underneath the NBA and the G League. If we just do the math, right, we'll run through it. Our fall league is strictly development. So how we're doing this is just like how NBL Australia does, where they have in their provinces, they have multiple teams within a province. If we look at, we'll just use Indiana as an example. We'll have 8 teams across the state. We'll have Fort Wayne, South Bend, Northwest Indiana, Lafayette, Indianapolis, Muncie, Bloomington, and Terre Haute. Those
So yeah,
eight
you
teams.
kind of covered, a huge demographic of that state right there.
Yeah, the only space we wanted to go was Evansville, but just the logistics didn't allow us to be able to do that with the drive. We do have other plans on how to incorporate that, but it is that where we have everybody about 2.5 to 3 hours in drive. So it mitigates our cost with travel, which is a big
That's
concern.
right.
It also allows us to be able to build a community across the state because if we have, let's just say our 10-man roster, right? So there's 80 guys that are playing within the state of Indiana. Hopefully the majority of them are from Indiana. And they're playing in front of their family, friends, etc. So they'll play, and then in the spring, we'll have one team that represents the state in our next tier, in tier 3. So the idea is that we're pulling one player from each of those teams to play on the pro team.
Kind
So
of like
that
an
way,
all-star.
yes. So like an all-star that is competing against all the other states. We take our top players, we compete on. So then we're building a fan base across the state for our pro team instead of just, hey, we're going to put a pro team. We're going to travel from here to San Francisco. Well, to get a whole team of people from there to San Francisco is going to cost you $15,000 to $20,000 for the trip, and you're not even going to have 100 people in the stands. It just doesn't make logistical sense. So we're starting with this, and then you look at that same thing with the players. So if we go to a 15-man roster out of 80, well, we still have was it 50 or 65 guys that don't have a job. And so how we want to be able to attack that is because obviously they're not going to sit around for the next year. We're actually building our own agency to be able to help place these guys in the right leagues overseas that give them the opportunity. I had two guys that played for me in Kentucky that they went from making $2,000 a month to $500 a month overseas, where they lived in an apartment with a whole bunch of guys and they had to pay for their own food. And I thought, why would you go from paying this to paying this or getting paid this? And they went, well, it's the way that we know that we can move up. And I said, okay, well, if the next step up, and I learned this recently, the median income outside of the top 10 leagues around the world is $2,500. So if you're telling me that the only way for you to be able to move up in the basketball system to get the attention that you need is by making $2,500, then one, let's start off higher than that here domestically so we have our great players stay here and stay in front of their family and friends. Secondly, let us build an agency that allows us to be able to selectively put players in the right spaces for them to actually either meet where we're at or above. And on top of that, if I've met with many an agent and having the same conversation with them over and over again. What's my fee? What's my fee? What's my fee? That's between you and the player. What I understood is they wanted to make sure that they got paid up front versus taking care of their player. And that frustrates me because if we're looking at it, the agent's job is to get as much money as they can, as much of an opportunity for them, because they do get a percentage of that. I understand the job. I understand how it works. It's a role that has to be played. But if you're putting somebody in a position to make X amount of dollars because you have to make a paycheck, your thought process around it is wrong because you're just placing them in a situation that isn't right. And so
They may not even be the right fit. That's right.
right. And so what we want to do is ensuring that with stats film selection, also having agents that are on a salary. If an agent is on a salary that works for us and allows us to be able to ensure that he is placing them in the right position, he's not doing a deal just because he needs money, but he's doing the deal because it's the best thing for that player. And that gives them the opportunity, us the opportunity to be able to place them in the right space so that way we are building credibility around the world by sending great players. So our objective is not just building in the community, but also those players. They're an asset to the community. They're an asset to us, but they could be an asset and represent their city, their community, their group around the world that gives a good outlook on the space that they're from. And so our agents will be on salary, they'll get paid, and then the fee that a player would get actually goes back to the organization, not to an individual. So if it goes back to the organization, those fans are actually getting the ROI of helping build and prop up a player, and by buying his jersey, by buying tickets to his game, by supporting him in the community, by buying his autographed memorabilia. If he goes over there, they should get the ROI, not the agent that just picked up a phone. They built the system that allowed him to have that platform. And so we're inverting the agency space as well for us to be able to ensure that the player has the best opportunity where they can come back and they don't hate basketball because of the situation. Two, it gives us a great network around the world for us to be able to continue to build and collaborate. And then three, it gets the ROI back to the fans of the communities that they come from.
Uh, Chris, I really like what I hear. Um, and again, it's going to take time. Let's be realistic. There is a process, there is a progression. Crawl before you walk, walk before you run. But having those, teams in Texas and having those teams in Indiana, within a couple years, you're going to start building rivalries, which is going to make it fun for each of those communities to be like, hey, our guys can complete and compete and be at a high level, which is going to help their market value, but it's going to allow players to play in hostile environments, which is going to prepare them to play professionally overseas. And so I hear many positives about things that you're doing and how you're going about doing it. How do people get involved if, let's say, they're a corporate sponsor and they like what they hear, or maybe they're a guy that says, you know what, I'd like to bring that to my community. How can we get involved with a franchise? How do they contact you? How do they contact the league? How can we kind of add, fuel to the fire to help grow this league the right way? Because again, your servant heart, you're trying to serve others and provide opportunities for community. So talk about that for a second.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's multiple ways that communities can get involved, but one thing I learned at the end of the day is a community is not going to rally around something until you show that you're there for the community. People are so apprehensive on something, and so that is why our infrastructure is fans are actually going to be able to buy into the team there because it's a
A
single
la
entity.
Green Bay Packers.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're a structured nonprofit. We want to be for profit. We'll have a nonprofit arm that allows us to be able to do free programming inside of the communities. But at the same time, if we're going to build a prep to pro within the community, then we have to implement those programs there. And so us going through the season, as soon as the season's over, we're going straight into youth development, youth programming, community integration, mentorship, financial literacy inside of the community, all these things that are assets to the community all year round. So whenever you ask, hey, how can they get involved? It's more than just the 16 home games in the fall. We want to, hey, how can we collaborate to get your brand as a part of our AAU team, as a part of our financial literacy structure, as a part of housing for the community that we're going to be working on? How can we partner there? Obviously the way that we show that there is value in what we're doing is by having incredible entertainment whenever they come to the game. And so sponsorship, the traditional model of sponsorship there is just like any other sport, they have to have it. And so being a part of that would be huge. But whenever it comes to the year-round programming, we want to collaborate with multiple entities to be able to make that happen. In Kentucky, what we did is we did a theme night for every home game where we had a different nonprofit that we had a specialty jersey for. The Texas Legends do this. We were doing it before I knew the Texas Legends do it. So, but it's still incredible what they do. Where we take the jerseys, we auction them off to the community, and those funds go back to the nonprofit. In 2022, I think we did $75,000 that we gave back to the community just from the season. We're also partnering with schools for us to do profit share on different events that we're going to do with them. It is a fully integrated thing. And what we're working on right now is we're calling it the 8 for 16. We're asking you to come participate in 8 games, and we'll give you 16 months of community building, community integration, not just come to our 8 games, we'll see you next year. And so people being involved or wanting to be involved inside of these communities, it's as simple as I've driven to many a city so far just to be able to meet with somebody because they have a nonprofit that we could help on Veterans Night. I have no problem having that. Obviously, if we grow and expand, we have to have other people involved with that process. But the best way to communicate with us is either through social, where I've met many people through there, which is the UBL official, or through our email, which is admin at theubl.com. And we'll respond to all those for us to be able to communicate back and forth. Obviously, as we're growing and we're trekking, we have to pace ourselves in the content we share, the branding that we share, just to be able to build excitement around it. We have so many things that are already built out and so many things that are already structured that we just haven't revealed yet. Obviously, we're letting a little bit of fizz out of the pop, right? We don't want to open it and explode. And so with that being said, obviously any business can always use more money, right? But I can guarantee that the money that comes in, if it's for Bloomington, Indiana, it's going to stay in Bloomington, Indiana. That is how the infrastructure works. So if there are people that specifically want to be involved in those areas, let's get connected.
I like that. So, we're talking with Chris Allison. He's the founder of the UBL, the United Basketball League. He's got big things going on here, creating wonderful opportunities. But I mean, there's a lot of opportunities for development for players, for coaches, for communities, enhancing businesses and giving back to the communities. I think are great for the novice person who has no idea about minor league sports, or how to even get involved in a community. What are some you know appetizers that we can give them without the full entree, but yet build their curiosity to want more? Share nuggets about what you're doing differently than other leagues that are just glorified rec leagues that just aren't working. Share those nuggets with those viewers right now.
Well, first and foremost is we're going to take the culture of the community to be able to build the team. As we said about the team, the fans buying into the team, the fans actually are going to be able to name the team, brand the team, color the team, color the mascot, the cheer team. They're going to help build that. It's 2K in real life whenever it comes to building the infrastructure of the branding. Now, the league is still going to own and operate the majority stake inside of that. But the reason that we're doing that is because if a dad is buying into the team and he has a kid that potentially could grow up and play on that team. Well, if they're already spending the money for AAU and they're already spending the money on development, why not have it in the place where you're actually getting the ROI? So us building the youth development programs and then giving the ROI back to the fans, that allows them to do double. It's like buying something with a credit card and getting 3% cash back, right? It's the same thing. But in addition, it's also an asset that can grow inside of the community where it's something that's year round. So first and foremost, the teams are going to be built around the community. I'm not going in. Now I will say there's a couple teams that I already own and operate that we're going to go in with the branding that we already have, but 99% of everything else is going to be built by the community. So it's not going to be the Washington bottle caps because I thought that was a great idea. It's a communal thing where it's only the people that buy in. So it's not just a thing across the board. I actually have a say in what I'm doing. And we're limiting the amount of fans that can actually buy into it. So that way we're not splitting stocks. We're not adding memberships because we got greedy. The system and how we have it set up, we have a finite amount because that finite amount gives us the longevity forever because we're never going to touch that. So that allows us to be able to have the original owners come in, help name it, help brand it, help govern it, and that infrastructure. But then those same people are going to help market the team, right? Because if I own a piece of the team and the more people that come in, I'm going to broadcast that. So it's not just building or trying to get money, extrapolate money from people. It's I want you to have a piece of everything that we're building together because we're part of the community. And if you actually look at the numbers, it doesn't take a lot for that to happen. If you actually look at the math of minor league basketball and actually looking at it from an operating standpoint, if we went to X amount of games, yeah, we would kind of be flipped upside down. But if we set the margins where we were setting them at and we set the expectation and we give the value to the fan up front where they're branding, they're naming, they're getting the discounts, they're getting it up front. G League is doing that where I went and looked at G League tickets for the Cleveland Charge. And I said, it's that much for that. In my idea in the economic status that we're in the value proposition that they're giving, what we are giving is 100x what season tickets would be for the Cleveland Charge. And the price point is not even close inside of that. The difference is that we're putting them in the communities that they're from. You don't have to drive 2 hours to go participate. It could be in the same city you're from. So that infrastructure allows us to be able to actually take aggregate money and invest into the community. It's not just going into my pocket. I set the structure up on purpose, so it's not going to me. The value of the league is how I get paid, not the cash that somebody spends, right? The cash flow is what gives the stock the ability to be worth more. So if you're getting the ROI, the direct ROI, by opportunities for your taxes not going up because we're building community centers, or entertainment is not expensive and you don't have to spend 4 hours round trip to go experience something, you can have it here. Plus the opportunity for your kids to be able to have a prep to pro process that is right in front of your eyes, or is 30 minutes away, versus, hey, don't go play for this guy because he's going to screw you over, when in reality you just don't want to lose that $300 for the summer from that one family, and you're not giving them an opportunity. How we want to do this is directly for the community and giving back to the community. And again, I say this, that it's going to take time, is because there have been so many people that have screwed over the community, that this, what I'm saying, sounds great. And I understand that I have to prove it before it happens. But once it's proven, in the first 2 years, we have countries, we have states that have already asked. I've talked to 3 state government. I said, well, we weren't planning on getting there to 2029. And they go, well, what do we have to do to be able to get it there faster? Because they're tired of spending the dollars. I had a conversation. I'll say this and I'll shut up. I had a conversation with somebody the other day about foundations and our nonprofit. And I said, I don't want I don't want to see the numbers. I'll be an advisor on the board because I want to drive it in the same direction and lead it. I not lead it, but advisor on it. But I'm not going to be a member. I'm not going to have any of my family members as members, because there has to be a clear distinction between the for-profit and the nonprofit, because I don't look at nonprofit dollars as another way for me to make money. I look at nonprofit dollars as another way to do good. And if we do good with that, and we're connecting with that, and those monies, we pay somebody a salary to be able to operate it. We pay people salaries to be able to organize and direct it. We have volunteers. If we reduce our overall spend with the funds from the nonprofit, but then execute those dollars into the community, we can do so much more, that then in turn benefits the nonprofit. But everybody gets it backwards. It's, hey, let us get as much as free money as we can from the government to be able to infiltrate that and do this program. No, have a good program, and then get monies to be able to fulfill that program. That's my soapbox for the but
No,
it's just frustrating because it just happens over and over. We're going to sell tickets. We're going to sell incredible merchandise. We're going to give you an incredible product. We didn't even get into the music piece that is added to this, where we'll have halftime shows with local artists. We'll have performances by schools for our national anthem. We'll have cheerleader. We have all the community packed into it. But the whole purpose of this is to bring that camaraderie, bring that spirit, bring that level of experience that you would going to an NBA or G League game, and bringing it to the local level.
I love everything I hear. Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching the Coach Scott Field Show. Got my new friend here, Chris Allison, on, who has this beautiful business model and plan for growth and development and opportunities. Please go check out Chris on social media, UBL, the official. Reach out to him. Share this content. He's a phone call away. He's responsive. He will follow up with you. Chris, congratulations on everything you've got going to date. I know big things are going to happen for you in the near future, and I'm glad we could use this platform to kind of market and promote what you're doing, because I'm believing in it, and I believe in you. Because again, I think it's coming from that servant heart that you have, and you are a guy that is willing to put it out there. And, for you, hey, I'm a fan. Whatever I can do to help, please, let's share this content for others, and let's continue to help you with this growth, because I see big things here, not only in the near future, but like you said, with longevity and stability for these communities.
Absolutely. I appreciate your time, Coach Fields. I appreciate the opportunity and the platform that you've given us to be able to share what we're going to do. So
there you go. I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, again, check him out. UBL, the United Basketball League. Big things are happening quickly. So if you want to get involved, as a community, with corporate sponsorship, with possibly wanting a franchise in your community, let's help this thing grow. So Chris, God bless you. Keep working, and let's be in touch, my friend. Great
yes,
job.
thank you.